necessarily the bot lane that go for those kills. Not that they can't. Like, we know Hansama can lock in something. Oh god, we know that Hansama can lock in something like a Draven, like a Kalista, and really kind of step to. This is not what I was expecting. This was the other big pick that Bvoy really hadn't shown, and I was really scared for Misfits that they hadn't pulled out the Kalista.
All right. Here's the thing, folks. We came into this, Froskurinn, I think we were on the nail on the head. We're like, bot lane, probably not going to be the center of the attention. Top side, jungle, mid-match, if that's what we're looking at. Support's maybe going to roam. But everything is now thrown out the window because we have a Kalista and very likely a Taric on the bottom side as that Aatrox does get locked in. A Draven with a choice of support for Rogue, and it seems like all eyes immediately have to shift to that bottom side of the map because somebody is dying. I don't know who yet, but someone will die in the first 5 minutes of this game, just about guaranteed.
Which is also why it's really surprising that the jungle pool is going to get super hard pinch as we go in through the next stage of bans, because it does feel like it's either going to be the 2v2 or probably more closely a 3v3 bot side.
There's going to be a lot of pressure, but now we have Draven Thresh up against the Taric Kalista. See what the choice of summoners here, if anyone wants to get more or less aggressive. Now as we enter the second ban phase, jungle mid can be the sole attention of both teams. Sort of some truly crazy flex picks here, which kind of evens the playing field as Azir does get taken off the board.
Yeah, so the strategy will be that you either ban out champions that are super easy to blind if you're on Rogue side, because Misfits obviously don't get the luxury of having counter pick on red side, whereas Misfits will either try to trim the pool of things that will be particular counter matchups that they don't like for their mid laner, or will try to pinch the jungle pool, though it can be a little bit dangerous because obviously if you pinch jungle twice here and then Rogue are going to get the priority pick of the jungler immediately out of this, it just limits it even further. So they just want to get rid of those super obnoxious champions that would really disrupt kind of the three champions that they have right now.
Gragas definitely one of those that makes a lot of sense. The flash body slam, very difficult for even a champion like Kalista to interact with. If she can get away from that CC, she's nigh unkillable, but if you ever lock her down, she dies very, very quickly. And now we have the Azir and the LeBlanc, two of Febiven's most successful champions when we look at individual performances. Obviously the Azir with a slightly better record overall, but I think LeBlanc still has to be respected as Misfits really debate their last ban. One's already been spent towards jungle. Will they take away a potential safe blind pick from Rogue? Gonna have to find out.
You can take away something like the Sejuani here if you wanted to double down onto it, or you just, again, target ban a specific champion. I guess it's going to be dive side, so okay, Elise makes sense, because Renekton Elise is such a potential threat for topside dive because you have the mixed damage, and DanDan really doesn't want to be on the receiving end of Inspired and Fen 2v1ing him.
And I like how deep Rogue are willing to go into the AP jungle pool. Clearly Misfits spotted out there like, we're not giving you an AP jungler, we're not letting you split your damage type, we're not letting you dive top lane. And Rogue are like, that's fine, we've got another one. What else are we willing to play? Straight into the Taliyah, and we've seen this champion be very good at both setting up bot lane dives when it was played by Caps paired with a Pantheon, can now also be used as that AP threat on the top side, and Misfits going with something much more standard in the Sejuani.
And also, just much better in terms of how it's going to work around the map. Like, Sejuani works so well for champions like Aatrox, any sort of melee-based champion, so it gives them a decent 2v2 top side, as well as then also really accents the bot side 3v3 with all of the CC between a Kalista, Taric, and now a Sejuani.
And one of the interactions that I love the most is going to be the Taliyah up into the Kalista. Obviously, the Unraveled Earth, the little minefield zone, is going to make it very difficult for Kalista to play fights if Inspired manages to find a lead. But the final pick will now be the Zoe. And it's going to be looking to set up picks as we get further into the game. Something that Febiven has tried his hand on, but not necessarily my favorite pick to see. Rogue, of course, going to get the luxury of having that counter pick in the mid lane.
And this is a pick that Febiven has gone towards multiple times when he needs a blind pick safe option, and Larssen then responding with the Tristana. So we can take a step back, we can look at the compositions. Already you have really good kind of breakpoints across both these compositions about they can be strong on early, mid, and have late game scaling. I do really favor Rogue's scaling potential, however, comparatively to Misfits. I think they're on slightly more of a timer, but we will check in terms of execution on these drafts as soon as we hit the Rift.
And once again, big pressure on both these teams. This is the elimination map, 5th versus 6th. There is no luxury of double elimination when you're at the bottom of the bracket already. And both teams betting on their bottom side a little bit. The Draven versus the Kalista. It is certainly going to be one very explosive early game.
And speaking of explosive, I'm really surprised that Misfits allowed Rogue to get some agency onto Larssen. The Tristana pick has been a big one for him on getting pressure or priority in terms of pushing in that lane, and when Larssen's able to do that, he immediately starts to roam and look out into those sides. Now, Tristana not necessarily the greatest champion at ganking those side lanes, but it almost doesn't matter for Larssen. He's going to find his way out there.
And that's exactly what I want to see in a game like this, is a ton of roaming, explosive plays. It's Misfits versus Rogue, and it's starting now.
Summoner's Rift.
And here we are on the Rift. Froskurinn. God, there's actually so much to talk about. I thought we were going to have a much more like stable, controlled, slow, steady draft from at least one of these teams. We talked a lot about kind of clash of styles coming into this. You heard about it on the desk as well. Rogue really good at these kind of set plays, really smart, can kind of play through any lane. Misfits a little bit more explosive, a little bit more volatile. But it feels like both teams have just thrown all their eggs in the explosive basket. Like, this is a very, very, let's just say, kind of balanced on a knife's edge sort of game. Anything going wrong can just instantly throw this game in either direction.
It's development and evolution in terms of expectations and playstyle. So the thing that I really want to underline and point out, though, is the fact that Denyk is on Taric and Vander is on Thresh. And the reason why I want to point this out is that Misfits are more of a team that was about playing kind of like three-man mid lane. Like, Denyk is a heavy roaming support, whereas Vander has kind of taken a bit of a backstep. Like, he'll usually team up with Inspired kind of around the mid game, but during the lane phase, he usually doesn't leave it very much. And with Taric being chained to Kalista, there's not as much incentive for Denyk to roam around and to provide Febiven pressure and then rotate Febiven out into a side lane. Whereas Vander on the Thresh has the opportunity that he can actually look for these roaming plays instead of Larssen actually coming to him. So I'm curious if the teams will actually change their identity. If this is going to be Misfits playing three-man to a side where Rogue usually play that, and if this is going to be Rogue playing three-man mid lane where Misfits usually play that.
And really, when we look at the bottom side, the second you see Hansama Draven, anytime you see Hansama Draven, you have to get a little bit excited, because while it is 0-2 this season, it's pretty much dominated every lane that it's gone into, and this is one of the matches where it's not necessarily going to be about the mid lane or the top side. Inspired is already heading bot lane, may free up Vander to roam, but first he's going to be looking for some kills of his own. Bvoy and Denyk, though, just going to back off, just going to concede the wave here, not going to take any risks. Denyk lays down the ward, and they're still going to go for this, but Razork is on the way in. They have to be careful. Bvoy throwing down a lot of damage. Halo Blade's already going. The Ignite's already come out. Bvoy, he can dash to the rocks if he wants, but stunned up, locked down. Inspired is going to get taken out, but first blood going over to Bvoy. That's going to be 2, and this is immediately disaster for the Rogue bottom lane.
And Rogue are a team that are so well known for their early game because they always come in with an early game plan. And you could see it. They wanted to do a super early dive, but they just bite off way more than they could chew. Misfits with a really good read and then being very cautious and calm with their cooldowns here. There's no flick that ever came on. Like, Bvoy eats a lot of the initial damage, but they're not able to kill him through the duration of it, and then he finds the pop on the rend and the first blood.
And it was only level 2 for Taliyah. I don't even think she had the flick. I think she had the Unraveled Earth and the volley. So Inspired going for that aggressive gank, trying to be unpredictable, but sadly, Razork is exactly where he needs to be. And now immediately we've got a 1k gold lead for Misfits, and while Draven is usually a great answer into the Kalista, if Bvoy gets far enough ahead, that's just not going to be viable anymore.
See if there's going to be any follow-up damage here. Nah, it's a pretty big oopsie moment, and now it's kind of a question about how do Rogue salvage what happened here. Now, they still have decent kill pressure because, like you said, Draven is still a decent matchup into Kalista, but they want to now make sure, I was going to say, the backs came through. They wanted to try to make sure that Bvoy sits into this lane as long as possible, so they're not competing with this back disparity. But
we'll get the chance to shove the wave in, however. We'll get a back of their own off. Denyk here to make sure he soaks up all that experience.
It's not that bad. Just a Vamp Scepter. He's got a control ward. Draven's going to get something fairly similar, so I still don't think that it's just over for Vander and Hansama down here, especially because they retained Cleanse and Flash on Hansama.
The bigger question for me is now, what do we see Inspired do as he is starting to fall behind a little bit in the jungle? Obviously sucks to lose that red buff in the play, but now Vander's going to be in trouble. Forced to use the play here as Bvoy just continues to chase. Why I find Kalista so obnoxious, Froskurinn. It's like you don't get to decide when the trade begins and ends. Kalista always gets to decide.
Yeah, especially when she has Hail of Blades, Kalista. We've seen it a lot globally. Obviously, it's been playing in the top lane and now in the bot lane. We'll see if she continues to be a pick kind of over the course of the series, if Misfits feel comfortable flexing the champion, just like we've seen in the LPL.
Will be interesting. Larssen getting his first recall off, 40 CS under his belt, should be enough to buy something pretty significant here for the mid lane matchup. We'll see what his focus is going to be. Boots 2 for now, just to allow him to be a bit more aggressive in trading. rather than going for anything like raw damage. Could be the Bork coming out, mostly used for melee champions, but still a solid item. As Finn and Inspired are fishing for this play here on the top side. DanDan
You're looking for stun into flick.
definitely doesn't know what's happening. Ooh, early on the flick though, DanDan flashing out. A little bit of miscoordination, a little bit of nerves for Rogue. Important to note there, 0-4 in the last 2 weeks. They're on a 4-game losing streak. They have not won an online game yet. So sad to see some of those nerves potentially still showing through.
And unfortunately, now it's going to be punished pretty heavily. As you can see that Razork has jumped the wall. He's now on the Cloud Drake. Inspired has now gone for an attempted dive. That one failed. He now shows for a lot of wasted time into the top lane gank. That one has failed. Yeah, you got the flash, so maybe he visits and he tries to get something back for Finn on that Renekton. But so far, it's led to a gold lead and now a Drake lead for Misfits.
And Razork definitely not a guy that you want to let get ahead, and most importantly when he's on Sejuani as well. That's level 5 to level 3, Frosco. We're going to have that Sejuani ult up and available very soon, and that makes me very nervous, especially for the top side of the map. Razork now just clearing out, dragging down. We'll see when Herald becomes the next objective. Obviously still 2 minutes till it spawns, but a surprisingly explosive early game, I would say, for a Rogue versus Misfits matchup.
But here comes kind of the three-man side lane that we were talking about with Rogue. The fact that they don't pull 3 members into the mid lane, they move their mid laner towards the side as Larssen is now caught off Febiven. Here's Razork.
Has cleanse, has flash. Ooh, going for the insect with the Tristana, knocks him back. Razork taken down. That's going to be huge. Good experience for Inspired, but now Inspired has to be careful. Stolen flash coming out. Stolen chilling smite as well, but Febiven not willing to burn his real flash there. Sees Finn coming down and does not want to push for anything else.
So finally something pays off for Inspired, fishing around for that gank, trying to catch someone into rotation, hunting in the jungle, and it's Larssen who helps him out here.
And I love looking back at this play because Larssen is so willing to play aggressive. The freedom the cleanse gives him to just go all out on a play like this.
And it was the thing that Misfits knew that Larssen and Inspired were in here, but just didn't really account for the burst damage. So Razork gets separated from his team there into the waiting arms of Tristana and Taliyah.
Very difficult to handle, difficult to deal with as well. Here we go. And looking in across the map, right now the good news is Finn is doing quite well in his individual lane matchup. Things are going to stay pretty even, but the last time we saw these two guys go head-to-head, it was a pretty decent lead for DanDan in a set versus Aatrox matchup, so Finn being even right now feels like a pretty good sign overall. Also has the Grievous wounds already, which is going to make DanDan's life a lot more miserable.
Yeah, and the last time that these teams faced, it was week 5, and Finn was not feeling as pleased as he is right now. Misfits repeatedly dove him and really tried to put him down, and that kind of almost printed out a blueprint for a lot of teams that led to Rogue's big downward spiral for their 4-game losing streak running into playoffs. And a lot of teams were putting big targets on Finn's back and just contesting his champion pool, contesting him into lanes, and really trying to put him in the pressure cooker.
Overall, I think Finn is one of those players that we've seen these huge moments of brilliance, but also just this season it hasn't felt as good as it did last summer, where he was, he came in after spring replacing Prophet, hasn't had that same level of performance. We'll see what he wants to do now, as Misfits have already rotated their bot lane to the top side of the map. Hansama's going to be left alone on the bottom side to take a few tower plates, a bit more gold in his pocket at the cost, potentially, of this big map objective. Will not be able to steal it away with the Draven ult. I would say uncomfortably close, 1.5 seconds off, maybe 2.
Attempted dive bottom, however, because obviously now that Misfits have Herald, as soon as they use it, they're going to get the tempo advantage. So the response will be, what do Rogue do with that? And it's to threaten the dive, to force DanDan to step off the tower, and to continue to funnel plates and springboard this Draven.
And we just kind of wait to see exactly how many stacks he can amass before they find that first kill, if they can find that first kill here. Knockback there, Larssen going to cleanse and leap out to safety. DanDan burning his ult here, but Inspired is coming over the wall. Can he hit it? The blast clone taking him away. A beautiful flick from Inspired over the wall, saving Larssen's life.
I also think that was a bit ambitious for Misfits to try to force that kill and that catch there. Maybe just trying to get more summoner spells out of Larssen there, but he's able to hop away. And finally, the Herald goes down just to match the pressure that Rogue have started with, again, Draven getting solo EXP gold and plate damage down there.
And you can see the gold is still actually very, very close, all things considered. All that solo farm has balanced out the kill and the assist that Bvoy has picked up, and while the turret going down is a pretty big boon into Bvoy's favor, Hansama is going to get a bit more time here on the bottom side. Vander coming down as well, but DanDan getting here should stop the turret from going down.
And it's really only the plates and the first blood that are keeping Kalista ahead in terms of gold value across from the Draven, because you can see Hansama, he's done a much better job at like the CS, and we talked about this, that even though Kalista got the first blood, the sheer kill threat, pressure, and like just straight up dueling potential of Draven, he's one of the few champions that can match Kalista in top lane and in bot lane.
And that's the thing, I think that I'm always just nervous about a Draven in any game, is that all it takes is one kill for him to take over a matchup completely. For him to find that extra gold, for him to snowball ahead, and his itemization can just be so oppressive, but has not gotten to that stage quite yet. Febiven interestingly stopping off of the Seeker's arm guard on the way to the Luden's Echo just to make sure that he's a bit more safe in lane. And slowly but surely, it feels like Rogue are building up actually pretty massive advantages across the map, Froskurinn. But now Misfits are looking to get something else done. Larssen will leap out to safety once again. Sleepy Chub Bubble not going to amount to much. But look at topside. 30 CS in favor of the Renekton. We got 20 in favor of the Draven on the bot side. Mid lane's about dead even, but otherwise, things have turned very quickly in the favor of Rogue, despite what were a few pretty poor early game plays.
Because it feels like Rogue are such a calm team that if you can't contest them into lane phase and really put them down, again, as some teams have done by targeting guys like Finn, then they're pretty fine to just kind of sit this one out. Yeah, it feels like they've given Misfits, the first Herald, they got the first Drake, but Rogue don't have to force anything right now. There's a lot more onus on Misfits to be proactive at this state in the game because they are playing with something like the Kalista and the Aatrox.
And the question for me is, when do we finally see Misfits kind of group as a team, try to force something more with these skirmishes? Haven't really seen the Taric ult or the Kalista ult leveraged quite yet as a potentially aggressive tool. Maybe that changes here, though, as Rogue feel like they're getting a little cheeky, but Razork is here on the flank. Can just be the 3v3. More damage, most certainly, in the favor of Rogue, however, even if the CC is in favor of Misfits, so both sides will back off. Infernal Drake going to be the focus here from Razork, but he has been spotted out, and Inspired can look to contest this one. Denyk going to make sure that both parties are kept healthy, though. They try to go for this. Bvoy, though, now has to be careful. He's going to walk through the Unraveled Earth, but just in time, the Redemption comes down. Bvoy's taken out Inspired. Hansama now on the run. TP coming in. Taric ulti going to make sure that no one else is going to go down on the side of Misfits. And now DanDan is on the hunt. Febiven on the backside disrupting Finn, making sure he can't get here. And Draven, if he was hoping for a cash out anytime soon, it's not going to happen. Bvoy is the only person making money on the bottom side.
Okay, that is worst case scenario now if you're a Rogue fan, because this is what cannot happen. You cannot allow Kalista to remain relevant longer by getting a springboard and a snowball. This is very similar to what Mad Lions were able to do against G2, whereas when you funnel all this early gold onto a Kalista, she gets to that initial item breakpoint that much faster, and then as she springboards ahead of the clock, she then stays relevant longer.
And it is also the Manamute Draven, which I'll hold a thought on that one, because Finn just got absolutely destroyed. While Razork is taking Dragon and DanDan is taking plates, this is kind of the, you said it was the worst case scenario for Rogue, but this is like the best case scenario for Misfits. They're getting everything they could possibly want.
Okay, what happened here? No, we're not even going to see the mid lane play, we're going to see the bot lane. So they've got control. Rogue have control wards right here. They know that Razork is going for the Drake, and they're just trying to immediately delete whoever they can catch, which is going to be the bot lane here. I think they wanted to kill Taric pretty instantaneously, but the damage was actually just really mixed. And even though that Taric ultimate comes down, it doesn't really block anything. And at this point, Rogue have kind of already lost the fight, and now it's like scatter, every man for themselves. You could see Larssen was walking across mid lane. He's like, it's over. I think I'm gonna go back top and farm some things.
And here's kind of the worst part, right? Is that I look at that play, I'm like, wow, Taric already has redemption. That's so crazy. But no, again, in the LEC, Zoes are incredibly good at picking up redemptions. It was Febiven's redemption from a mile away in their own red jungle that gave them enough healing to keep going on that play. Absolutely ridiculous character sometimes. So Febiven finding a way to get an assist in that fight despite mostly not participating.
And now that they have this lead on Kalista and then using Zoe to really threaten Siege and continue to snowball this game by forcing down towers. So I actually really like this play from Misfits.
Ooh.
Tell him, Bvoy. Tell him that you're a carry.
Yeah, I was going to say, I love the confidence from Bvoy here. Hail of Blades just allowing him to get that quick trade in. And when Kalista starts to snowball, the damage just gets, honestly, just way too oppressive for most of Rogue to deal with. They have the luxury of a lot of point-and-click CC in the form of both Tristana and the Renekton, but they have to get in range and in position to use it effectively, which is not going to be an easy task. Rogue just trying to get what they can here on the side lane, bit of scraps as they push in for the tier 2, and a 2k gold lead and 2 dragons for the side of Misfits, and they're not done yet. Vander just next on the menu, one shot as Febiven comes over the wall.
And just such an easy mistake, as I'll hold it for a second. DanDan.
Gonna get flicked back. Gonna be difficult for him to make it out of this one. The Grievous Wounds make it pretty easy for Finn to just drive by on that one. Well played by Rogue to get something in that exchange, but Razork in the meantime is just starting up this Herald.
But so far, kind of across the map, like Misfits have played this, you know, early mid-game transitioning out of lane phase so well. That trap on the mid lane to hide into the brush, to know that Vander and Hans Sama were going to step forward and kind of farm the incoming wave, snatch grab them with the Sejuani ultimate that now gives them access to the Herald. Super clean play from Misfits, and just it's kind of like one of those blueprints that you can see from a very well-coached team.
Yeah, and this is a team that I think we talked a lot about because they're so young. Them getting a game 1 win, them finding that momentum in a do-or-die series is huge, is massive, and they most certainly have the momentum. It is only a 1k gold lead, but when you look at the items, you can see Blade of the Rune King, the Luden's Echo, the very interesting Muramana Draven. I can kind of see it. Obviously, every time you catch an axe, you get to use your W, and you get to stack it up, but not something I'm used to seeing at all.
So it has been cropping up a bit in solo queue. It's sometimes paired with the Sanguine Blade, so obviously looking more for a dueling-oriented Draven. It looks like he's going to go the BF sword route, so I think we might see more of a normalized build path here from Hans Sama past that.
I wonder how crazy he's going to get if it's like Essence Reaver just to keep the mana up, just to keep the Muramana damage up.
I mean, that's kind of like the idea here, but I mean, he certainly has the mechanics to do it.
Look, I love it. I don't know. I'm going to be honest, Frost. I'm glad you know about it, because this is one of those situations where I'm just going to trust that Hans Sama knows what he's doing.
It's definitely a thing. It exists.
All right, yeah, like, perfect. That's good to know. Not something that I would have expected to see built, but I do enough crazy stuff that who am I to judge anyone else, so. Bvoy, though, grabbing bot lane tower. Meanwhile, on top side, Rogue are responding with pressure of their own. They're doing a pretty good job of splitting up the map as best they can. Problem is, they got to give a lot of respect to Febiven and Razork, especially now.
They have to give a lot of respect to Bvoy. He's not a top lane Kalista, so he doesn't necessarily have the EXP, but he's the same level as DanDan. Finn's only a single level above him. Like, if he actually pieces out into a side lane, there's not a lot that Rogue can do. They'd have to two-man him.
And to be fair, I think that's what they did, Frosco. They just left him alone. There's like, to me, that's not even respect. That's like, we're scared of you. We're going to leave you alone. You're going to do what you want, and we're going to try to play 4v4 against the rest of your team.
And what's cool here then is, you know, it's always the question of, could Misfits not carry through Bvoy, or did they ever choose that just wasn't the play style that was going to work for them? And Bvoy is showing here that, yes, Misfits can do it now. And if this is something that they came to relatively new, like they've just been training, or it's been true the entire time and they just chose it strategically as like not one of the things that they ever wanted to do, like this is the perfect time to point it out as they're now pushing for a mid-inhib.
Backing off because they don't want to take the inhibitor and give anything else away. I like it. Love to see it from Misfits. And you're right, because Frosk, Bvoy's stats suck. He's like lowest in damage per minute of any AD carry. Like outside of those really good Aphelios games, I was not impressed. But this game is showing us the same level of performance that we see when Bvoy's comfortable on Aphelios. I didn't think he was going to have another champion like that, but now Kalista's going to change the nature of this series completely.
I mean, it's kind of like the idea that if you only just came to the LEC and you saw Rekkles playing Fasting Senna every single game, you probably wouldn't think of Rekkles as a big, hard carry. But like, because you have the tape that you've seen Rekkles kind of be that 1v9 type of ADC, you're like, he can just play both styles. But we only have tape of Bvoy's responsibility to Misfits being playing weak side. It doesn't mean that he can't play strong side. It just means that the team hasn't needed him to do it yet.
And that's what you want to see. Anytime we head into playoffs, anytime we head into best of 5, that's the real time to prove yourself. A single best of 1, it's easy to discount, it's easy to feel good about, but a best of 5 is so career-defining, especially in the first playoffs here in the LEC for Bvoy. And really, 3k gold lead, triple dragons that are on soul point. This feels like Misfits' game to lose at this point. Rogue are going to have to show us something creative to get back in this one. They do have double 80 carries, which is going to be huge. It is going to be a lot of damage as we get later and later, but once again, 9.5k on Bvoy. That's a big number. He's working towards his third item. We got 1.5 for Hans Sama and Larssen. Larssen very close to his second, but he's just going to be a very difficult champion to interact with.
Yeah, I think the game does get harder for Rogue to play out at this point, just because it's not just Bvoy who's pretty far ahead. It's also the fact that Febiven, like if Zoe contacts anyone, she's still going to do massive amounts of damage. She's got so much wave clear into her kit now that she can just hoover up everything and allow Kalista to play out into these side lanes. So Rogue are going to have to be pretty creative using the mobility of Taliyah, playing out to either Tristana or Renekton on these side lanes to maybe pick up some kills to stall the game out, and then hopefully Larssen is able to take it over later on with Draven.
The Tristana here, obviously, going to get progressively stronger. I like the Bloodthirster coming in from Hansama. Will make it a little bit harder for Bvoy to just out-sustain him in any kind of extended trade.
I think
of course,
a big
Misfits,
issue, however, is that unless Larssen is... I don't want them to get caught here. Hold on. Unless Larssen is competing for priority, because Baron's now in play and you have a Kalista, so the Baron burn threat on Misfits is so high, it's really dangerous because Draven can't push waves very quickly comparatively to what Misfits comp can do and what the Tristana can allow for them. So Larssen almost has to be grouped up in this mid lane now to prevent things like this happening, because Misfits set this up perfectly.
Blue Trinket's coming down. Rogue, this is a huge opportunity for them to turn the game back, but
Teleport.
if they fumble here, it's all but certainly a loss. Sleepy Trouble goes over the wall. Febiven now has to run. Larssen sees his opportunity to try to turn this fight against them. The Baron's only at 3k health. Rogue can come in here to try to take this one away. Finn gonna dive right into the back one. Razork locked down, but that's a big Taric ult. Finn can't find anything. That was so clutch from Denyk. The timing could not have been better, and now Rogue are on the run, but the Baron has reset. Misfits will be forced to back away. Rogue will live to fight another day.
And that is the Taric ultimate that you like to see right there. The first one, Denyk, I'm going to write that one off. That one didn't necessarily count. That one was clutch right there. So Misfits now push back onto the Baron. The jungler is around, but you're not just competing with the Smite. Again, you're competing with the Kalista Rend, which we saw it happen in the LCS. I've seen it happen in the LPL, so there's still a chance technically here for Rogue.
It's happened in the LEC too, Frosk. It should be impossible, but it's definitely not. 2k health getting lower. It's all on Bvoy. No, he's going over the wall. He doesn't even want to risk it. He wants to get one more. He's trying to cut through the entire team. Bvoy, the heal coming out. The Baron has now already gone down, but DanDan comes over the wall. Oh, it's a whole team affair, and this is a side of Misfits. I have not seen the aggression, the bloodthirst, the Baron. It's all for Misfits.
Remember the name. It is not Voyboy. It is Bvoy, and he is proving that he can be the carry. He flashes the wall and immediately grabs hold of Inspired. Ah, that was some BD energy.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, the ultimate result of the fight is inconsequential to me just because of how aggressive it was. There is nothing quite like watching people aggressively flash over a Baron pit to get you hyped for a series, but... Whew. All right, Misfits. This is one-sided. This is not necessarily what I was expecting whatsoever. And now Rogue have gone from, hey, look, there's some opportunities, you can wait, you can buy time, to the classic death brush. When all else fails, just try to survive them. Ooh, Gromp placed well, very unintentionally blocked Sleepy Trouble. Now Finn might be able to make it out. Double dash away to safety, but there's the ult, and Finn is going to have to say night-night. Bvoy unstoppable, 5-0-3.
It is desperation for Rogue right now. They know this is pretty much going to be it on this type of push. Now, the good thing is that Hansama does eat the wave, so it's not like Misfits can immediately rock up into the lane and then try to end the game off of push. Surely they're going to try to go for this mid inhib, although as I say that, they all peel off. They're like, see hero, kill hero. We know Hansama is over here, find him.
I like it. They're like,
just
you will never cash out. There is no money here for you.
Oh, they want soul, they want soul.
That also makes sense. I prefer the they really just want to kill Hansama narrative, but you know, to each their own. On top of that, they have their lead. They're so far ahead. They're pretty much guaranteed to get this soul, and it's Ocean Soul. Ocean Soul is the victory lap soul. You get it, and you're literally just waiting for the game to end in your favor. It's nigh impossible to beat.
It's also the fact that Kalista is about to get the GA, and then once she has that, like, it's good night, sweet prince. Can't do anything.
Bvoy is merciless. And obviously he has the best scoreline, but the whole team actually has been playing very, very well. Denyk, you mentioned the Taric ult. I think we've also seen Razork doing pretty solidly. And sadly, it just feels like Rogue, after those first few fumbles, haven't really gotten a chance to play the game at their pace.
And you know, maybe this is a wake-up call for Rogue. Maybe they were gambling that Misfits wouldn't play it. We've seen other teams really respect the Kalista, banning it onto red side. I thought for sure, when we were discussing this, we're like, okay, if Misfits are on red side, bans will probably be Syndra, Senna, Kalista. But Rogue let it go through, and Misfits skill checked him on it. We can play it.
Absolutely did. Wall comes out from Inspired, just to buy space for them to clear the waves here. And overall, Look, when we talked about Bvoy potentially playing Kalista in this series, based on how his MF looked, I didn't think it was going to happen. I didn't think it was going to work. So when Rogue picked Hansama's Draven, I was like, bot lane is over. Bot lane should be done.
That could deal with the Kalista, but
yeah,
things cracked on the rest of the map.
Maybe we get to see a more even game state. Maybe Rogue look to run it back in game 2. Feel like execution is the issue and not composition or draft, but something that we have to see how both teams want to approach the best of 5. You've already praised Misfits coaching staff. We'll see how deep the preparation runs.
Still need to close it, however, as Larssen has his cleanse, so he feels very brave to do this, as well as the Dark Passage right there. Knows that if he eats the wrong end of a Sejuani ultimate, that he should be able to walk out of that one. And again, Rogue's composition is so reliant on Larssen's wave clear since they have a Draven.
And Draven fully stacked now on the Muramana, so we'll be able to really hit like a truck if a few of those autos can come through. Febiven delaying the actual Zhonya's, just sitting on the Seekers, as he does now have the Morellos, so could, in theory, be vulnerable to one of these kind of plays. Does not even have a stopwatch.
This is the deepest of flanks, and the desperation play here. I don't think Finn's going to get there in time, though. No. Rogue have timed it well. Okay, here we go. Last chance.
Going to try to dive into the back lane. Very easy for Taric to throw down the ultimate the second he thinks an engage is going to happen. Kalista ult now coming up. Bvoy can throw it back to the rest of the team. Bvoy, the Taric ult now coming down. They're going to get nothing. Rogue suddenly find DanDan on their backside. Hansama's been caught out. He's been left alone. He's going in on Vander instead. He knows the Lantern can come out to save him, but Febiven leaping forward. That damage is way too much for Hansama to deal with. He's going to be forced away. Larssen still playing very aggressive, just trying to clear the wave, knowing that the minions are needed to end the game. But Misfits just set their sights on top lane inhibitor instead. Rogue looking ready, looking like they have to go for round 2 if they want to stay alive in this one. As Misfits going to break top lane inhibitor. Are they going to back off here, or are they going to push for the end? It looks like they will play it safe and walk away.
And that's now 2 inhibs down to Misfits. The Elder spawning in 3 minutes. The Baron will be up soon as well, so there's plenty of options again for Misfits to eat up the rest of this map, to look for that final push. And Rogue, they managed to stay alive. That is a deep teleport. Where's it going?
Oh.
He just got question mark being.
Wait a second. Hello?
Maybe they thought that they had just walked back. Maybe Rogue thought that Misfits had walked back down mid lane and that they would potentially push someone out. Oh
no! Okay. Alright. How many embarrassing moments is this first round of playoffs going to yield for a wide variety of different players?
You just gotta shake out the jitters. Just like stretch. That's what I would do if I was Rogue's coach. I'd be like, everyone stand up from their seat. It's just like, shake it out.
Walk out, take a break, come back. It was a good scrim. The best of 3 starts now.
They're out of position for the mid lane push. Oh no.
Oh, they're just going to walk in and take this. Are they going to try to just force? I guess they're going to try to force an inhibitor down. Obviously, Larssen can just strike through that tower.
That's literally the only option that they have.
Bvoy is going to delete this objective, as meanwhile, Febiven's just pushing in the mid lane, and DanDan's going to be there to make sure that not too much else falls down. Has to be careful, though. Larssen is going to get the knockback and will leap out to safety. Larssen doesn't even get the tower. Draven ult to reveal what they already know is happening, and this stage of the game, Misfits, I don't think that there's really any way outside of a massive throw they can lose this one. 6K, 8K now in their favor after that Baron. Ocean Soul, they should just be able to walk down mid and end this game.
Yeah, and so now the question is, you know, what do Rogue do? Do they leave open the Kalista again? Do they themselves try to get it? I can understand why, you know, leaving it open when you have Hansama as such a proficient Draven player. And I don't think that this was, like, strictly the 2v2 issue that went wrong. Like, this isn't on Hansama and Vander. It was a collective team issue. Like, several things went wrong back to back for Misfits to snowball this as effectively as they did. But also then huge credit to Misfits. Like, once they had the snowball, they did not let go.
No, and this is the thing about Razork. He might be in trouble now. Might not be the best time to praise him, because he has just gotten caught out, but luckily DanDan is there, and he's nigh unkillable. Gargoyle Stone Plate looking like a healthy, balanced item on the back of that one. Rogue just do not have any kind of damage to kill the Sejuani, and sadly, that was it. That was the last play. That was the final nail of the coffin, and Rogue hammered it home themselves as Misfits just wiped that fight.
And here comes the TP to grab the minion wave. Larssen was trying to do his job, push down some minion waves, farms, continue to stack that CS, but like you said, a Misfits game 1 are going to walk this one pretty cleanly in.
Incredible start for this Misfits lineup. 15-2 to kill score. 9K gold in their favor. A very easy, very simple closeout. Respect to Rogue for trying to make a play happen to turn the game back in their favor, but because play after play did not work out for them, It is going to mean the end for Misfits. Misfits going up 1-0 in our first game of the series.
And Larssen on the back half of that play was actually trying to kill Sejuani, so attempting something there, but that kind of felt, I don't know, that's a painful way to lose. It just felt like Rogue lost control of the game so early on, about as soon as we opened up into mid-game, and then just never really got it back, taking several bad fights, particularly around that Dragon Pit area.
Yeah, and it's rare, I think, to see Inspired plan so many ganks that go wrong on the execution level. Not something that I'm used to seeing from him. Of course, I'm not used to seeing his Taliyah either, so maybe just a few things not working out quite as well as they did in scrims